Hello, hello, it's Elizabeth Busby here, and welcome to Discerning Marriage. Today, we are having a conversation that I'm very passionate about, and that is about why it is worth getting out of debt as a Christian. So I already made a video about how this applies to married couples in particular, but I recognize that there are people out there who are not necessarily thinking about getting married, or your marriage is so far off, and you're just like, I don't know, thinking about authentic Christian thriving. And I thought maybe we would make another video that just had to do, generally speaking, with debt. Now, here are my thoughts about it. When we talk about our financial life, there is so much taboo around how much money people make and how much money people spend and all of that. Like, the first thing I want to encourage you to do is find some people in your life that you can have honest financial conversations with. Find some people that you trust, that you are totally comfortable being like, here's how much money I make, here's how much money I spend, here are the pain points kind of in my financial life, right? Get to a point where you have people that you can dialogue with about this sort of thing. It can be so helpful just to shed some light on this area. And one of the things that I think is important to think about is that debt has been kind of fed to our generation. I'm in my mid-30s. There are some people I think a little bit older than me, but definitely people younger than me, have been fed this lie that debt is just a normal thing. There are people who just cannot wrap their mind around not having a car payment. It is just unfathomable to people that you would never have a car payment as a line item on your budget. But the reality is, back in the day, I'm thinking in particular of Alexander Hamilton's day, late 1700s, early 1800s, but also well before, any sort of credit existed. So for most of human existence, the way that things worked was you have your money or whatever you're bartering with, and then you have the things you need to buy and you buy them. And then whenever you're out of money, you don't buy things anymore. Right? That's how it used to be. I'm thinking about Alexander Hamilton in particular because he got a mortgage for his house, but this was not a thing that people did back then. And then he died before the mortgage was paid off. And so his wife and his children were in this miserable position of losing their home. They ended up not, but they were threatened with losing their home because they just there was nothing in place to kind of allow for that relationship of debt in their life, right? It did not used to be a thing to use debt to use someone else's money. I just read this really incredible book. They were college students who rode in 1936, and it talked about how hard they worked to be able to make the money to be able to go to school. It wasn't an idea that they would take out debt to be able to go. If they didn't have the cash, they couldn't go to school, right? They were it's just how it used to be. But with the invention of debt and with the invention of banks that are willing to give you money, and you can spend that money and then pay them for the luxury of spending that money, now people are in this place where they can't imagine life without it, right? So no longer do we have money coming in and money going out. We have money coming in, other money that we borrow to pay for things that we want that we can't afford on our own. Then that money goes out, but then we also, in addition to paying for the things we want to pay for, we're also paying for the luxury of borrowing someone else's money to pay for things that we have, right? This cycle can really set you up for a lot of stress, a lot of hardship, a lot of difficulty in your life, generally speaking, but also in your relationships. But what also that does is it kind of feeds this lie that we will find satisfaction through the material things of this world. God is very clear that our hearts were made for him and we're going to be restless until we find him, right? That was a St. Augustine quote. But God is really clear. The Catechism says, in Jesus, God has revealed his innermost secret. God himself is an eternal exchange of love, and we are destined to share in that exchange. What our hearts are longing for is union ultimately with God. And all of the flashy things of the world can trick us into thinking that that's going to make us happy. And part of the way that they do this is by saying you don't have to be restricted by your paycheck. You can just spend whatever you want. You can spend other people's money, and as much as people will let you borrow it, thousands, maybe $10,000s of dollars worth, and you get yourself into a position where you've spent money that you don't have, and then you have to pay all of that back with interest. It is a vicious cycle. So I would argue that as a Christian, one of the most amazing things we can do is orient our hearts around what really matters and develop the virtue to live within our means. So what that means is whatever money you make from your paycheck, you spend that money and you don't spend more than that. I'm not talking about mortgage. I don't remember if I gave this caveat. I'll get to caveats. I don't remember if I gave one. I'm not talking about mortgages here. That's a whole different conversation. And number two, I'm not a financial person. This is not a financial institution. If you want money advice, go find someone to give you money advice. I'm giving you ideological life advice, happiness advice, human thriving advice, answers to life's burning questions advice. That's what I'm doing. So if you are in a place where your mindset is, I'm just going to spend the money that I have, and you want something huge like a car, and you can't afford to pay cash for the car, well, that really challenges your like, okay, what else am I spending my money on? Can I spend less over there so that I can put money towards savings and buy this? What do I really need? Like, I want this fancy car with all of these bells and whistles, but do I need that? Most likely no. This was relevant too for people who are single, who are thinking about getting married. Like, what kind of an engagement ring do I want, or do I want to give my girlfriend and be fiance? What kind of wedding do I want? What do I have money for? What kind of what kind of honeymoon do I want? What do I have money for? Like, all of those questions are hugely relevant to this discussion of what will satisfy you and what will make you happy. And if you're in a place where you're like, if I don't have these material things, I won't be happy. Well, I would challenge that as a Christian, that you are finding your happiness and your satisfaction in something that will never satisfy and something that God is not inviting you to find your happiness in. I know that this is like a super countercultural idea. I also know this is not typically the kind of content we have on our channel, but I have a course for discerning marriage that my team and I wrote that we have to offer you guys called Next Step. And in Next Step, one of the 8 sessions is about finances, and we've gotten incredible feedback on it. So I thought I would make a video for those of you not in Next Step. If you're interested, there's a link in the description. You're welcome to do it. It's a phenomenal course, if I do say so myself. A lot of people, hundreds of people have really benefited from it. But I also wanted to give you guys the ability to kind of hear some of that and hear some of kind of my heart around money and ultimate relationship satisfaction, those sorts of things when it comes to your financial life. And I hope that it has been helpful. So if you would be willing to leave a comment, I would love to hear your thoughts. I wish we could like sit down over a cup of coffee and I could talk to you about this and I could hear your immediate feedback, but that's not what's happening here. But I would love to know, like, would you like more of these kind of videos about like practical things in life that aren't about relationships, kind of like applying the idea of human thriving to different areas of your life? Or do you like totally hate it and you don't like this and that's not your favorite? Let us know. We'll be watching the comments to see what you have to say. And if you do want more things like this, let us know what would be beneficial, because we'd love to film those for you. So anyway, those are my thoughts about money, about debt, about Christian thriving, and I hope they were helpful for you. Until next time, stay close to the heart of Jesus and be not afraid. Bye.